If you got your family a new console this Christmas, there's some important things to do before you wrap it up. We've worked with the VSC Rating Board to tell you everything you should do before putting it under that Christmas tree. This will ensure you've got everything downloaded and updated for Christmas Day, along with the right users and family settings for your children. If you don't do this, not only do you risk a bit of a long wait on Christmas Day to get playing, but also once children have started playing and using the users that they've set up themselves on the account, spending money, creating game saves, it's quite hard to untangle that to get back to a more organised scenario. Before you start, it's really helpful to download the PEGI app from the App Store that's available both on Android and iOS. So if you just search for it in the store, you should find it coming up as the top entry for PEGI. And if we open this up, you can see that it offers a whole host of information. Along with the PEGI ratings themselves, it also has details about the Ask About Games website, a resource for parents to ask questions and find out more, as well as links to how to set up each of these consoles. Tap on the platform you've got, that will take you through a nice little overview of what we'll be doing to set them up. And also you can click through to the platform holders guides to how to set up this particular console for your family. It also provides general information about how the age ratings work and what a particular age rating means for the content of that game. If you select one, you can then see the PEGI rating it's got, but also the content descriptors. And if you tap on those, you can see what that content descriptor means. And then as you scroll down, you see the examiner's report. So it's a great way to see everything you need to know about a video game. So with the PEGI app in hand, we're now ready to set up our consoles. The first thing to do is to get the console out of the box. Obviously you want to take some care while doing this because we're going to wrap it back up in the box in all that original packaging so that when your child or teenager opens it on Christmas Day, it looks as if it is new. Now you can see here with the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, essentially what you've got there is similar. You've got the console itself, this Xbox One, you have an HDMI cable that connects from the console to your TV and you'll have a power cable. The Xbox One comes with a controller that uses batteries, so doesn't have a charging cable. The PlayStation does have a charging cable that just plugs into the front to charge the controller up when the batteries get low. Now for a bit of variety, we're looking at the Switch Lite. Now this is a handheld console, so it doesn't plug into the TV, but the same rules apply. It really is worth getting it out, making sure it's updated and making sure those family settings are set up. Then all that's left to do is plug it into the power. You can see the switch there just has a charger. The back of the Xbox One, you have a little power socket there, and you also have a couple of HDMI, one HDMI out and one in. You're sending it from the console to the TV, so plug it into HDMI out and that's ready to go. Then on the PlayStation 4, similarly you have a power cable and HDMI out that goes into the back of the TV, and then we plug the power in, switch on, and we're ready to actually start the proper setup of our consoles. So we've got these in the studio to go through one by one. We'll start with the Xbox One, but essentially the process is the same. It will power on, ask us to connect to controller, select a region for where we are, and then connect to the internet. It will then perform some checks and start downloading any automatic updates for the system that it requires to do. And this is the key point, because if you're trying to do this on Christmas Day, the sheer volume of people updating consoles is often too much for the servers and means that you can end up waiting many hours before you can start playing. The next thing you'll be asked to do is to set up an account for a user that's going to control how your family accesses this console. It's important to make sure that this email account associated with your user is one that you check regularly, as this will be how you get notified about what your children are playing, any changes to passwords, and also any transactions that have happened on the account. This is going to be the main or the family account, and this is how you're going to set up accounts for children to guide and control how they play games on the new console. We'll come back to these settings shortly, but first it's important that you enter any download codes that you've got for games to get those downloading as well, because again on Christmas Day they'll take a long time to load. If you've got any disc games, it's also worth putting those in the console once it's started up, because they may have updates to download, or they may have portions of the game that also installs. Once you've done all that, you should be then back at the hub of your console, and we can start to think about how your family is going to use and play with games on this console in a safe and secure way. So that's the Xbox One all set up and ready for us to look at the settings, but we're going to also set up our PlayStation 4. We've got it in the studio as well. To get started here, rather than actually pressing a button, we need to plug the USB cable into the console so that it syncs with that controller. We then press the PlayStation button on the front of the controller and they're synced together, and we can again proceed through a very similar process To get things set up, we select a region, an internet connection, we can optionally connect a camera, and then we're into setting up users and accounts on the system. So we'll move through this a bit quicker. You can see how I pick my internet connection and then set that download going. And again, it takes a little bit of time, so it's a good thing to do ahead of opening it on Christmas Day. So with the PlayStation all set up, it's time to turn our attention to the Switch, which again follows a very similar process. We pick a region, we connect to our Wi-Fi, enter the password, and then we're into setting up users. Now again, you're going to have an account here which is linked to your Nintendo eShop account where you can make transactions. And you can also set up users for other members of your family so that they can play games and save their progress separately. And also in the parental controls, you'll get to see what they're doing and what they're playing on the system. And that next step is to set up those parental controls where you download an app onto your phone, so slightly different, and then you enter a registration code that links the app to the phone. Then over on the app, you've got the perfect place to control and to see how your children are using the console. It's now a good time to put in any game cartridges that you have purchased to make sure that any updates or installs are applied. If you had any packed in games with the console that require a code, or if you've got any codes to download games, then enter those now and you can start them downloading so that you're all ready to play on Christmas Day. So with all the updates and downloads applied on Xbox, PlayStation and Switch, we're on the main screen and it's time to set up our user. So log in with that email address and password. Go to the settings, parental controls in here, family settings in Xbox, and then pick those system-wide defaults. This is a way to say, as a baseline, if anyone's using it with that main user, what they can and can't do without coming to you and asking for a password or a code. So that's a really nice starting point. Now, one of the key tools for you in understanding which games your child should play are the PEGI ratings, which tell you how appropriate the content of a video game is. Here in the console, we can automatically set which PEGI rated games can be accessed by a child. But along with that, we can use the PEGI app to look up more information, not only the PEGI rating itself, but the descriptors of violence, of sex, of bad language that might be in the game or maybe fear, as well as the examiner's report behind that, so we can make a really informed decision about particular games and set automatically in our console which games a child can play without asking for specific permission. So if you've seen, you set those for PlayStation, Xbox on the console themselves. On the Nintendo Switch, you use the Parental Controls app and you can go in and set some predefined restrictions, or you can go and specify the particular age of your child that's using this system. Carry on working through these settings, making decisions for your child and for your family for each one. Remember, this is the baseline decisions we're setting here. Then after you've done that, make sure that you set a password on these restrictions or on that main family account so that children can't go in and then change them without you being around. On Xbox and PlayStation, you do that on the console, and as you can see here, on the Switch, you have the Parental Settings app that automatically has a code. The next thing to do is to add in child accounts to that family grouping so that you can then go in and set specific settings for each child in your home. Whether on PlayStation or Xbox, you can do this and then work through the settings, determining how you want that particular child to play games, what content you'd like them to access, and how you'd like them to interact with other people. The password on your main account means they can't log into that, so when they log into their child account, they then inherit these settings. To do this on Switch, you just need to log into your user on the website or via the app, and then select Family Group and create a child account. You then enter the details, set them up as a child, agree to this, submit it, and then you can specify which particular restrictions this child account will have, and then that will be applied to the console when they're using it. You then just need to create a new user on your Switch console itself, link that account you just created, and there you have an account for your child. So when they log into the eShop and try and purchase something, they'll be asked for the parental controls password before they can proceed, in addition to any other restrictions you've got around how funds are added to the system. These accounts also enable you to restrict how long they play games and what time of day and which days of the week. You can go in on PlayStation or Xbox and set this up in the console itself, and on the Switch you can use that parental app to go in and set when the console is available to play and when it's time for them to stop. So here you can see we're setting particular times of the day via the family settings website, which we've accessed within our Xbox One console. We can also use these child accounts to control how much money our children can spend on the games they're playing. Here on the Xbox, you can see the family settings website reflects the settings that we picked on the console, but here we can go and add some money, so that gives them an allowance to spend on games or in-game purchases. On the Switch, you do this on the console itself. Open the eShop app, log in, and in the top right corner, click your user, and then you can go and add funds, and you've got different ways of doing that. Equally, on the PlayStation, with our child account selected, we can go in and set a spending allowance for each month, which is slightly different in that it's no repeating amount that they can spend each month, but it's a nice way to keep spending in that pocket money criteria. So there you go, that is time very well spent before you wrap up your console to put under the tree for Christmas Day. Not only have we downloaded any updates that we needed, we've installed any updates, we've also downloaded any games, we've charged the controllers, and also we've set up our parent account, which has locked down the system so that we know what's happening, and we set up very specific targeted children accounts so that our children can only access the games that we found appropriate by using that PEGI app to understand both ratings, descriptors, and also the more information of the examiner's report. We've also had a look at when we want our children to play and specify particular times of day when they'll be doing other things. And we've also set up a small amount of pocket money each month so we can keep the spending in check. Setting all this up ahead of time is really important, not just so that you know what's going on, but because once your child sets up different users and starts playing games on them, those saves and progresses and any purchases are then associated with that user. Once that's happened, it's quite hard to untangle them and get back into a more manageable situation. So this sets us off on the right foot as we embark as a family together on our journey into video games. There are so many exciting experiences to enjoy, and by situating it in the family as something that parents and children share, and that is set up in the right way, it means that everyone can enjoy it together.